Some might call BS on this one, but I assure you that it is, in fact, a true story. Anybody that knows me will attest to the fact that I have a wall full of backpacks in my man cave. In 2016, I decided I needed another one. I was looking at 3 major brands, and I settled on one. It worked out well for about a year and a half. But it wasn't until my buddy Jake killed a cow elk off the end of this ridge. Now, it shouldn't have been a tough hike out, but that pack crushed me. It just did not perform well with that kind of weight in it. Now, in full disclosure, that winter is when I met Aron. And Aron got me pointed in the direction of Kifaru. Rest of that winter and into the spring, I did a bunch of training hikes in preparation for an 8-day trip into the Frank Church. That pack performed flawlessly. And then that following fall, between myself and friends, I ended up packing out 5 animals. Well, the next few years, I've used that pack a bunch. And now I think I can give you a pretty fair assessment on it. That pack is going to be heavier than any pack you've ever owned. But when you need it, it's not going to let you down. Today, I use the 44 mag on elk hunts and overnight trips. And then most of the time, I'm using the Striker pack. That Striker pack is so versatile, it'll blow your mind. So, if you're looking for a pack, don't do what I did. Go right to the top. Kifaru International. Check them out on their website. You won't be disappointed. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Stick Bow Chronicles, brought to you by Blackwidow Bows, and it's way better when you unmute. Works better. What's up, Blake?
I'm unmuted.
No, me. I was yakking my gums and realized I was muted.
Rookie.
Oh, gosh, I know it. That's like, yeah, wicked professional.
What's up, pal?
Oh, not much, man. Yeah, good shooting the breeze with Aron tonight. It was, it's about 6-7 days behind schedule to get a empty quiver out, but there we have it.
No, yeah, I mean, always lots of little gold nuggets whenever we talk to Aron. So,
dude is
this one's no different.
Dude is a gold nugget, no homo. Hey, so I got 2 messages while we were doing this podcast. I got 2 messages I didn't tell you about when we were doing it. Number one, Toby messaged me while we were doing this and said, Blake and your bows are going into the spray booth next week.
You bet.
Yeah.
I can't wait, man. Yeah. I'm really, really, really excited.
I'm ready to try them limbs for sure. The other one was actually super funny because Aron brought up Cody's name in a positive light, of course. As he's bringing up Cody's name, Cody's messaging me. And what was it? Sorry, I got depressed from my phone. I'm not sure what the heck that meant, but I said, hey, we're on a podcast talking about you right now. So I'm sure his wheels are turning.
His ears were ringing.
Yeah. Well, I had some tuning questions. I'm ready to start over with them arrows. I'm super frustrated. So yeah. Anyways.
No, yeah, and Cody said he got some positive feedback off that episode we did with him. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to the episode with Cody. What feedback we've gotten seems to be positive so far.
Yeah, no, Cody's a rock star, man. People like to hear him. He is no longer the backup band. He is the main event.
No, I know some people like to poo-poo on what Cody does, but Cody does, in my opinion, a lot for the traditional archery community, and specifically people that are, new to traditional archery. And, he's funny as hell. So that certainly doesn't hurt. And he's one thing I will say about Cody is he's very, very honest, almost to a fault sometimes. So if Cody's telling you something, it's the truth. You can take my word for it. I'll put my word on that.
Yep. No, I agree. What have you been up to besides working?
That's about it, man. It's been really crazy the last few weeks. It's been some long days and rolling into nights. Worked, I think last week I did 36 hours straight. I got a couple hour nap in there, but it's been, balls to the wall here lately.
Dang.
Did a little frack job today, something I hadn't done in a little while. So I got to knock the rust off and did a little frack job. So that was good. A little change of scenery. Causing earthquakes and pumping liberal tears.
Yeah, well, you create earthquakes, and I stop the salmon from going upstream. So together, we make a pair.
We're we should reach out to BHA.
We better start planting currant bushes. Gonna need to charge them electric cars somehow. What else we got going on? Spring, man, 60 degrees here. I'm ready for bear season, turkey season. I'm fired up.
Yeah, no, I say it every year that, or the last 2 years I've said it, that I'm going to kill a turkey with a stick bow. And every year I go turkey hunting like twice, and it always turns into a pig hunt. So I really want to kill one of those pillows this year with a stick bow. That's why I think Cody Greenwood told me that. It's like hunting pillows.
Yeah, I think he did say that. I have a blast. I kind of go turkey hunting.
I'm a poser when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a great time of year to be out. Gosh dang, what's the name of that? Is it Predator something or another? That decoy that goes on your bow?
Ultimate Predator.
I'm going to get one of those. I'm going to get one of those this year. I'm going to give that a try.
Yeah, just you might put an orange collar around it or something.
Nobody shoots turkeys around here. They're a nuisance.
Turkey is my kryptonite animal with a bow.
You know what? Maybe I'll just put a hunter orange patch on my ass.
You might do that.
Yeah.
Might do that. But no, I really do. I would really like to. I've shot a few of them. I think turkeys are made for shotguns. But
oh yeah,
I'd really, really, really like to get one with a stick bow this year. And so I'm going to try and dedicate some time to that. I'm not a very good caller. I'm decent. I can halfway use a diaphragm and usually get something to come in, but getting an arrow in one of those boogers has been a totally different. And I usually try and hunt them on the ground without a blind.
Yeah,
and with a bow, it's just difficult. And I think this year I'm going to commit to putting a few decoys out and putting them to bed, going back the next morning and getting in a blind, because I think that'll be a big help.
Yep, I just like walking around trying to call them, and I've killed a couple of them doing that, and they are made for kids. But of course, North Idaho turkeys are not Mississippi, Tennessee, Pennsylvania. They're not smart birds. No, sir. But they're still a challenge.
Yeah, they're not overly smart there where I'm at. They don't get hunted a whole lot. I don't think the turkey hunting is not a huge thing down here like it is in some places. So they're not overly call shy or anything like that. As long as you're out there at the right time, you can generally get one to come in. But yeah, they're still not an easy critter to get with a bow. That's for sure.
Well, my sincerest sympathies to all those in the Colorado area that's getting 5 feet of snow, but better you than me. I'm going with that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear you complain about it either, because I had plenty of Colorado people tell me how big of a sissy I was for putting up with 14 inches of snow. So, in on it.
So what does 14 inches of snow equate in Texas as to Colorado? Would that be 5 feet of snow, you think?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
All right, there you go.
That's a pretty good metric.
There you have it. You got anything?
No. New logo.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about that. Yeah,
no,
we had
still kind of rolling it out.
Yeah. No, it's we're still kind of working it in, but kind of updated the look a little bit, and Jerry Shaw over at Photo Lab Studios, huge shout out to him. Man, he does just an incredible job.
Yeah, he's got a great style, great eye for that stuff.
Really does. And he nailed it, man. He really did. And I'm a big fan of it. Not that there was anything wrong with the old logo, because there wasn't, but
well, I think the new logo is better than the podcast.
Oh, 100%. It's better than us two idiots. It really, if we need to have a face, that it's better than either one of our two ugly mugs.
My suggestion was to have legs in it, but I got shot down.
Yeah, negative.
Yeah. So be looking for shirts and hats and stuff. People and stickers. People have been asking about, hey, we're just a couple chowderheads that have real jobs. So be patient. Save up the some money, and we'll get them out there.
Yeah, no, that's something that I've been working on for about the last week, and that'll be coming down the pipe soon. We'll have probably, we're going to start out pretty small, but probably, 2 or 3 different hats, a couple different T-shirts. And if that goes well, we'll pump some more out. So.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got, man.
Right on. Well, hey, thanks to the sponsors, the Footed Shaft, Selway Archery, Kifaru International, Backwoods Grind Coffee Company, and of course, Blackwidow Bows. We appreciate all the support from the listeners. Please give us a review on iTunes, wherever you listen, and spread the word, because I don't know, people seem to like it and say it's pretty good. So get it out there.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's get out of here.
Right on. What's up, guys?
Living the dream.
What up?
It's snowing down there in Colorado yet?
It's been off and on. It's stopped now, but it's supposed to snow. Well, you know how weathermen are. Somewhere between 12 inches and 60 inches. So kind of throw a dart and pick in the middle, but it's supposed to snow a crap load tomorrow.
Well, they got their bases covered.
Yeah.
You got back home just in time for it.
When I shoot a tournament, what my score will be.
Yeah, so you just got back from Texas when? Tuesday?
I kind of lost track of time. Yeah, I don't know, a couple days ago.
How many clients did y'all roll through there?
A lot.
The last step?
3, 11, maybe? Something like that. One red sheep hunter. Quite a few. I kind of beat myself up a little bit, actually, this go around. I hit it hard for basically 15 days straight with, 7, 9, 10, 13 mile days, whatever. A couple days I hit 15 miles. It definitely has caught up with me. I'm pretty sore right now, and my feet, I think I broke a bone in my left foot. I've done it before where I got a fractured one, and I'm pretty sure I did the same thing.
Like a stress
over time.
Like a stress fracture?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid to say that out loud, because even though it wasn't when I passed the 300-pound sheep on my back, it will get chalked up to that. So I'm kind of worried to say anything's wrong with me, because then I'm going to hear somebody say, well, dumb shit, you shouldn't have been packing life-size sheep, which is true. But it actually happened with Corbin.
And you'll give a crap why?
Oh, yeah, I'm well beyond giving it crap. Although I had to delete quite a few people from that and block them. Just the way life works. But, any more, no matter what you do, somebody's going to say something.
Oh, trust me. Yeah, I know. But yeah, I was a little surprised you didn't know how to field quarter an animal.
That's what I heard. I had a lot of guys sending me messages on how to do it, whatever. And the reality is, and I should have just said it in the beginning. It's a prototype frame we're trying to break, and I know people are like, oh, you should strap weights to it or whatever, but man, nothing beats a frame up than an ungodly, flopping around full body animal. I mean, that's just the easiest way to break stuff. So, and we only went a few hundred yards. It looked like I packed that thing 5 miles. I mean, honestly, I couldn't have packed it any longer than I did because it just sucked. It's good entertainment for everyone, and that's what I'm here for. That way they can have something to talk about.
So being down there, how many stalks? Well, like you went on more stalks in probably, what were you, like 2 months down there? On and off, 2 months?
Yeah, probably off and on. I'd fly back and go to work or hunt somewhere else and then go back down. But yeah, probably 2 months.
I mean, think about the experience. Like the rest of us are, ice fishing or walling around in snow. Not many people are hunting, and you get to do all of those stalks and all of that experience. And that's just invaluable. And that's your off season. Oh, talk about jealous, man.
I tell you, though, I don't know if you've listened to the internet, and Blake can attest to this. It doesn't matter because it's tested.
Yeah, it's not a good experience.
Well, I forgot. My bad.
Yeah, it just doesn't count because it's Texas and all the animals are dumb and they're killed over bait and there's high fence everywhere. There is a high fence by our ranch. Trump built it.
Apparently, there's some holes in it.
I know. I think Biden sent bombers down there and blew holes in the fence. Now they're coming through like a Viet Cong.
Yeah, so now the biomass, they're no longer sheep. It's a biomass of humanity.
See my buddies that hunt on the border, Arizona and Texas. The moment Biden got elected, the game cameras were going off. And it wasn't from coos, deer, and mule deer. Little ninjas coming through the night, like free flowing. Daylight shots, like he's like, dude, this is not good.
Yeah, we even saw places along the side of the highway where they had water stashed whenever we were out there.
Oh, really?
Like down in the ditch. Yeah. Yeah. Well, me and Wes and Cam were driving along the side of the highway, and there was it was on the side of the highway, like it's on the other side of the brush where you couldn't see it from the highway. There was little gallon water bottles stashed in the ditch.
The big question is, did Cam film that?
I don't think so.
Because Cam didn't film anything. Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was funny.
I can't laugh. I sound like that cartoon dog. I sound like a smoker. I wish
one thing you can't ever listen to what you sound like, because then you change who you are. See, you listen to how you sound, and now you're worried about it. You can't do that. Let it flow.
Can you
like that little dolphin laugh?
You've got a face for radio, though, buddy.
I'm dying, and apparently legs too. I wish the deal for us going north were as good for those guys going north, or I'd be sneaking across the border up here go see the folks up in Canada.
That's a good question as you bring that up. If I accidentally cross the Canadian border and go hunting in Alberta for mule deer, am I going to be shown the same free wheeling type of atmosphere we're showing our friends down south, or am I going to get a ticket and put my hunting license taken away? Because if I could just cross the border, I'll walk it. I'll just have somebody drop me off and, like, what is that, Wheatgrass, Montana or whatever, and then I'll just walk up there and then go hunting.
No, I think they'll hook you up.
Yeah, you want some free money while you're here?
Yeah. Hey,
maybe some health care. Just go to the emergency room.
Yeah. I know your soldiers use the VA, but you're going to get really good health care because you just crossed the border.
Just tell them you're pregnant.
I tell you what, I stayed down there for too long. I probably could pass off for that. Thank God I was walking a lot all day because my diet consists of Quest bars and Metric chocolate chip cookie dough bars and stuff like that. So I probably could pass off as pregnant. Thank God I walk a lot while I'm down there. I'd really be in trouble.
I would have, I that wrecked me. All those wrapper foods wrecked me.
Quest bars aren't too bad, but some of the other ones are pretty. I mean, you can't eat like that for too long. It's just obviously catches up to you at times, especially your digestive system. Like, I took a couple of crap so big I had to send photos to Chad and Scott because they needed to be documented. You can't not have something like that come out of you and not tell people. I can't. I got to show people.
Yeah, when I was there, I'd have to do it on a flat spot. Otherwise, it'd run downhill. I wasn't feeling too hot. Get a quick picture of it.
Well, don't poop uphill.
Fever. No kidding.
It's something like
window
that.
Screen.
So getting back to stocks, anything stand out this year, as far as stocking? Again, you get to, shoot, we were doing 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 a day. When I was down there, like anything pop out or, become, really stand out this year?
Few things on the guidee. One thing I could notice, like you had guided or had been guided or guided if I hadn't known you, because you were smart enough to stay right beside me when we peek over the hill. I got to get a little bit better about confirming the person is right beside me when I peek over the hill. I think that when you pop over those hills and you haven't done a lot of stalks like that, you want to inch forward, and you're looking in the case of mule deer antler tips and the bosses in the case of these sheep, but you don't have a big window when you peek over, and especially if you're peeking over at 40 or 50, something's going to see you, right? And then things start bouncing around and get super hectic. So, whether you're being guided or guiding or on your own or whatever, I think when you haven't done that, it's hard to explain that to someone of the intensity of what's going on when you're looking over that hill and trying to keep your crap together, and get an accurate range and obviously the noise of the bow. If you are able to poke your head over and not get caught, having a bow extremely silent to get away with drawing the bow, all of those things I think are hard for people to. It's hard to teach, right? It's hard to until you actually have done it. You could teach somebody all day long on 3D targets and mimic it, but until your heart's racing in mule deer, sheep, mountain goats, whatever, flying around, it's hard to mimic that. The other thing, Barclow talked about it on his video today. Using a compass and a flagging ribbon to shoot a back azimuth to come in over the top of the animal. Difficult stocks, writing things down. Catching features so you don't screw up. But those are just things that have become kind of second nature for me. I'd say the biggest thing is people just not being ready, because they've never done it. Not being ready for that intensity at that moment of truth when you pop over the hill, and it's hard to explain. And I'd be curious, Rob. I mean, obviously we popped over several hills. It's hard when you have 6, 10, 12, 14, 30, 50, sheep that are bedded to keep your composure and keep, one, not get tunnel vision, but also not be too widespread. And I mean, what do you kind of think about that? Same with you, Blake.
Well, it was so open for me. Like I try to, in a deal like that, it was kind of weird for me being in the back, right? Cause I'm either hunting by myself or I'm guiding. So trying to stay like right behind the person so you're not silhouetting two people, but it was so open on your left and rights as you're moving forward and you're, again, tunnel vision, you're looking down in front of you at maybe, a 60 degree or 70 degree swath that you're looking at, forward, your vision was like 60, 70 degrees out, but it's so wide open that, a critter 150 yards to your left or to your right can see you. So I was like, my head was on a swivel. I was kind of like a turkey. I was like cracked out, like, holy crap, man, we're wide open here.
Yeah, and you've got good vision. I mean, you spotted things where you could tell I had more tunnel vision on the target at hand or the task at hand, and you'd say, oh, right there, over there, and it'd be whatever, 150 yards away, and you could see where I had tunnel vision on getting on this specific animal or group, where, we actually talked about this because we had a cameraman. His name's Jay Byers, and Jay's a freaking stud. Jay's the third guy back. Jay saw way more shit than me and Barklow, not on the stock in front of us, but around us.
Yeah.
Wait, Snyder, you're to the left. I'm like, I'm looking left. Well, I wasn't looking 200 yards left. I was looking, 60 yards left. I'm like, man, Jay, you're giving me newfound hope for cameraman because you're seeing all kinds of shit. He was a stud, right? And it's difficult if you're the first guy or even the second guy to not get tunnel vision. And where the third guy, he's kind of blocked from seeing what's in front of you. So he's kind of looking around. And when that's going on, you're kind of wondering, like, I wonder how many things I've blown out that I didn't even know. Staying on that 60, 70 to 80 degree tunnel in front of you and looking 100 yards in, how many things out past that parameter are you blowing out and not even seeing? And when it's windy, not hearing. And the whole stalking thing, some people are just quiet walking naturally. Other people are literally, like I said in my new video, 13 gardeners with 14 rakes. Doesn't matter what they do. They're just loud. And, with a stick bow, you really got to work on, especially that final 15, 20 yards or more before you peek over the edge, being quiet. And I think everybody has a different definition of quiet. South Cox would probably only wear, he'd have a full-on fleece, vinyl pack, fleece, everything. His definition of quiet is a little bit quieter than mine. And my definition of quiet today is way different than it was 10 years ago. And I think that, Blake, you've hunted with guys, and I'm sure Rob, you have as well, that you're like, okay, we're just never going to kill anything because these dudes are too loud. Like, it's almost impossible because they just make too much noise.
Well, it's funny you say that. Scotty and I have actually talked about it while we were down there, that it just, you can tell who got yelled at when they were a kid for stepping on stuff and who didn't.
Yep.
I swear some people are born sneakier than others. Some people just, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I mean, I've hunted with guys that I'm like, I turn around and look at them like my dad used to look at me when I was a kid, like, if you can't watch where you're walking, go sit in the truck. It's, but like a minute ago, you talking about peeking over the edge. I mean, I can get in too big of a hurry sometimes and get bad tunnel vision. Well, like when we bailed out of the truck after those sheep the first day I was there, I'm like, okay, we got to go. And, didn't look around at all. Hell, there could have been sheep 50 yards closer or 100 yards closer than the ones that we spotted at first. And I wouldn't have known it because I just bailed out and took off. But, at one point, me and Wes were peeking over the cliffs, and I mean, we're inching forward and I'm standing right next to him and inching forward, and don't see anything. And then all of a sudden Wes looks right to his left and like 50 yards straight down off to our left, all those sheep are standing there just looking at us. And had we, not been so tunnel visioned into, where we thought they were, we might've seen them before they seen us. And then, got around and got an arrow in one. And, a good example was when I ended up shooting mine, it just worked out perfect. We spotted them before they saw us, and Scotty was on the ball. And when we peeked up over the top, he was right behind me, gave me a range. It all happened fast, but no, I'm pretty bad about that, getting tunnel vision and getting zeroed in on something and not paying attention to what could be, 200 yards to my left or right.
Well, Aaron's no doubt.
Yeah.
Aaron, no doubt, is good at what he does, right? He does it a lot. But I was surprised how fast you move, like coming up to those cliffs. I'm like, man, I got to look. Like I said, my head's on a swivel, and you're just like right up there, and it works for you for sure. But it was probably a third faster than I would be going.
It works for Audad. I don't do that with mule deer. I mean, and I should have probably told you that earlier, because with Audad, and again, a little bit different later on in the season with mule deer. And take this for what it's worth for the people listening in. Mule deer, I'm 3, 5, 7, 9, miles in, right? Long way. I have just went 2 miles on a stalk after I've hiked 9 miles. Well, without Dad, yeah, it's important, but there's a lot of them, and I've had better luck hurrying than I have waiting because they're so nomadic. Where a mule deer beds and plants, as you guys saw, Dad don't plant for very long; they move, and so I am more paranoid in favor of the side of speed with Dad than I do mule deer, where I favor the side of patience and creeping in. Where with Dad, I think I had too many initial stalks where I got to exactly where I wanted to be creeping up, and they were 90 yards to my right feeding. And so I'm like, oh, where now I'm like, okay, we can get on them again. We didn't hike in 9 miles, right? I'm not blowing a 2 mile stalk and I'm out of water and I have no food. It's like, okay, we got 20 minutes back to the truck. Let's get on another group, and there's water in the truck. And so, yeah, Rob, you're 100% correct. I move quick without that, and it does work. But yeah, it also does blow stock sometimes. But when I wait it out for me, it's okay. I'm going to blow as many because they've moved into a position that now maybe I've exposed myself looking over, and I look to the right and there they are, or whatever. So that's more of just an equation in my brain of, okay, where's it worth it? And for Dad, it's definitely worth it for me to go faster. But I could tell you looked at me a few times like, Jesus, dude, you're creeping up a little quick, right? And and it's worked for me without Dad.
Yeah, and I guess to summarize it, you'd say that the stakes aren't as high because if you blow one, it's pretty easy to get on another set.
Definitely not physically as high. That's the thing. Like you do a few high country mule deer stalks and blow them. Believe me, whatever you've done wrong, it's like one kid gets in trouble and he gets talked to, and the other kid gets in trouble and he gets the shit kicked out of him. The one that got the shit kicked out of him, I'm not saying that's good parenting. He's probably going to remember a little bit quicker than the one that got talked to. So when you blow a stalk and you're out of food and water and you got 2 miles back to your base camp and you still got to drop and get water, that's a lifelong lasting memory that you will not make that mistake again. Where, yeah, you just run down to the truck, grab water, go get on them again.
No, and mistakes at 12,000 feet are a lot different than mistakes at 6,000 feet. Because, the elevation is what just kills me on those mule deer hunts. So to go on a stalk is, for guys who haven't done it, and I'm certainly not claiming to be experienced or anything like that, but for guys who haven't done it, it's, especially coming from sea level or back east, like it's, sometimes just going on a stalk is an ass kicker, and it makes you, want to think about things a little bit more than other times.
Yeah. Well, I guess too, and like, Rob, I'd be curious, like, with you and I going, because you and I hunt, we probably don't hunt that much different, but definitely like shot choices and things like that are a little bit different, but at different times, what are things you probably would have done differently on different stalks or different things we went on that kind of pop out in your head? On the whatever that wasn't like a ton of time, but the 4 days we screwed around.
No, there was times where we pressed in, where my style is more of a to let the situation evolve, where you were just going in and making it happen. And again, it works for you. That's obvious, but I'm trying to think, there were specific times where I was like, yeah, I'd probably take a knee. But we pushed in there. Yeah. You know what? It was that the time we were coming up under Chris and Terry on that bench and all that prickly pear. Yeah, I would have probably taken that 4 times as slower and taken a knee. As it ended up, we had him at 18 yards. It was just a ram, just happened to be a ram. But yeah, I think it just plays into what we both observed. Hold
on, let's rewind. This goes into also comfort in shooting. We had 9 sheep at 22 yards at the frontal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ram was at 18.
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't want to take that frontal.
Yeah.
And this is a big, I mean, we should talk about this. You taking a knee may have gotten you a different shot opportunity than I presented us with going in faster. One of the reasons I go in faster also is the wind swirling with the constant pain. But two, I don't worry as much because I knew they would be really close to that edge, and I'm comfortable with shooting certain distances. And so, for me, I would have taken the frontal shot, but I also didn't take a knee on the stock. And if you would have taken a knee on that stock, let's say, and I wasn't there, you might have been presented with a shot you were more comfortable with taking. And for people listening in, this is important because your style of hunting and what you are comfortable with shooting, are going to you're going to learn that real quick. Meaning, if you're not comfortable with a little bit more fast and furious, and you might have to shoot maybe a little bit 28 to 35 yards, taking a knee may not get you the shot every time because the animal may move, but it also may get you a lot closer. So you may lose some opportunities from not being as aggressive, but the opportunities you have may not be, I say fast and furious, but whatever, may not be quite as quick. I mean, would you agree with that, Rob?
Oh, absolutely. And as we're talking, we just went into this as, let's get after it, have fun. It was just, getting out there and hunting. But for somebody that's actually going on a guided hunt, I think you can take some lessons away from it. Like, so if you and I were just guide and hunter, there should have been a bunch of discussion like, hey, as the hunter, hey, this is what I'm comfortable shooting. Maybe we talked about this, but I think it plays into it. And, it was cool. We're just out there having fun and got it done. But if it was on a little bit higher level and maybe you didn't know the person, could have done well for yourself to have a discussion about that stuff.
Well, we talked about this on a different podcast, you and I. Your expectations, your shooting ability, what type of hunt you want, what size of animal you want. That is all things you should talk to. Your guide, and your guide should talk to your client. And by no means am I this world-class guide by any stretch of the imagination. I have friends that are. I just help people out. But when I had Corbin's guys, that's the first thing I asked: what are you comfortable with? Well, I can shoot out to it. I'm like, no, that's not what I asked. What are you comfortable with shooting an animal at? Are you comfortable with the frontal? If you are, inside of what distance? Are you afraid of height? Which was a problem because Corbin scared shitless of height. All of those things. And so when we had Cade, which Cade was that bigger kid that runs Corbin, he had a 69-degree. Well, that photo I took of you, Blake, on those steep cliffs?
Yeah.
When we first got out of the truck.
Uh-huh.
That poor little bastard, I had to hold on to his belt and put my feet against the back of his and lean him over the cliff to make that shot. First hunt ever. He'd never been hunted.
Are you serious?
And you'll see on the video, you're going to have to edit this. I look at him and I said, look, kid, do not die. It's dangerous. You could blow off the cliff. I'm going to hold on to you. You can make this shot. And he did. But I was worried he was going to blow off the cliff, 69-degree angle. And it was probably, I think the rangefinder said 11 yards. I think it was 37.
So
it was steep.
So you're hanging onto his belt and he's leaning over. And it's his first hunt
ever.
Oh, that's epic.
Kid's a stud.
Welcome to the big leagues, old son.
Well, the first stock we went on, I put him on a sheet at 10 feet, and I'm pointing, it's right there. Well, he's looking out 20, 30 yards, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I'm like, right fucking there. I'm like, at your feet. Well, by the time he saw it, he's like, oh, and he drew back and made a little noise, and the sheet flew out, and I was like, yep, you are going to be spoiled because that does not happen very often, buddy. And I love the kid to death. I'd adopt him. The kid was awesome. But man, the next shot he had went from 10 feet to hanging off a cliff, and the kid performed awesome. So he's amazing.
Yeah.
Just a tough kid.
What-
But again, I didn't know we were going to be forced with that situation where like, are you comfortable with a 69-degree shot? And oh, by the way, I may hold on to your belt. It wasn't like I, went over that spiel, right? That just happened in the moment, and he seemed to be good with it when I said don't die, and I said I'm going to grab onto your belt, but it worked.
No, that'd be a good that's a good idea to check your belt and see if you got one of those sissy belts or you got a man belt.
Yeah, the rigger's belt is what I wear, which we about needed to get down to it. It was Blake, you stood on those cliffs. It's steep. It's straight down. They're vertical walls.
No, it ain't no joke.
It
ain't no joke.
And he killed it.
Yep, killed it.
Nice.
Shot at the first shot. It was in a wind, and he hit it a little forward, and it would have died. And the second shot got steeper. It went straight against the cliff. I'm like, hey man, if you can make the shot, let's just put it down. And he said, yep, I'm comfortable with it. And he got a good footing and made the second shot perfect. So.
Did you have a video of that one, second shot?
I did, yeah.
I think I saw that. Did you post that?
I did.
Yeah. Well, good for him, man. That's pretty awesome. How old a kid is he?
18.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure he's hooked now.
Kid.
Those little. I feel like we're rehashing what we've already talked about, but one thing that got me was those little wind puff things you have. I don't buy into things easy. I got to see them. I don't.
No way. I can't believe that.
And and those things that was the shit, man. That was awesome. You can watch that, how it went over the cliffs and stuff.
Yeah, when you, it's kind of like me bringing an ice axe on some hunts, ice axe walking stick, those, the wind. So it's funny because I've had people look at me like I'm stupid because the wind is blowing without a doubt from left to right, hard. In a wind check, that's in the area, it is a joke. But you drop one of those wind floats, yeah, it blows from right to left. We're
losing you, brother. Maybe the snow got too deep.
We can't, or I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello?
Got you now.
Okay. An impossible stalk, as you're looking at it from above, because of the wind, becomes extremely possible if you drop a few, over the course of 5 minutes, you drop those wind floaters and you see what the actual prevailing wind and thermals are doing. The impossible stalk is now possible because you know that, oh, man, when it clips off this cliff edge, it actually takes an extreme left, down the valley. And, man, those things, that saves you. It doesn't save you. What that gives you is the potential for a lot more opportunities on a stalk because you know what the wind is doing for 300 to 400 yards if you're watching those in binoculars.
Yeah, and so you kind of cut out, but essentially what you were saying about like the wind puffers, like most people use with the powder in them, that gives you the wind direction right there where you're at for a few feet or whatever. And the wind floaters, those little cotton puffs, they're like a piece of like a cotton ball, aren't they, Aaron?
What it is that any better? Can you guys hear me any better now?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
It's milkweed, I guess, is what it is, which grows in ditches in Iowa, but we don't have it here. And I pay like $8 a container, and I gladly pay for it. And cotton would work too. Anything that is extremely lightweight, all you're doing is you've got something that you can follow with your binoculars as it's coming off the mountain to know exactly what the prevailing wind and thermals will do. Because sometimes the wind overpowers the thermals, sometimes the thermals overpowers the wind. Sometimes they're doing the same thing. But if you can imagine you're on a plateau, and on the plateau the wind is swirling or the wind is doing whatever, But off that plateau, you've got, let's say, midday, where the thermals are blowing up, where you think at the time on the plateau, the wind is blowing straight down the cliff edge. But as you drop that wind floater, it blows down, and then the thermals take over because you're off the plateau, and the wind goes straight up the valley. And then now you're like, well, all right, we got a chance. We can make an approach on this. And with powder, that only shows you 5 feet, when you're using a standard puffer or whatever. The wind floaters, show you, if you're in the right situation, 300 to 400 yards, if you can keep an eye on it with your binary. So.
No, that's been a big tip I picked up from you, because I've always just used the wind puffer and not really thought about it, to be honest. But, it's pretty awesome to be able to drop those things and watch them for a ways.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I think, without dragging on for hours on stalking, I think that when people are thinking about hunting with a stick bow, compared to a compound or you're switching, and it was a big eye opener for me, was I really didn't care about certain things, because if an animal stood up at 40 to 80, I would just shoot it. Wasn't a big deal. Where the hunt really kind of starts at 40 yards with a stick, I would say. That's where you're getting the red zone, so to speak. And there was a lot of times I'm like, okay, maybe I made a bad decision and I bit off more than I could chew, because I was so used to certain tactics with the compound that it wasn't working with the stick. I'm like, okay, Snyder, you need to pull. I'm going to need a plexiotomy, which those who don't know, that is a glass belly button, so I can shoot with my head up my ass, because I'm like, this ain't working, right? Like, I'm not gonna kill anything. I'm gonna have to regroup and reassess my hunting skills and dial in certain things for getting closer. I'd always use those wind floaters, but example, there's a certain place, space, and time I drop my chest harness. It's too loud. All of them are loud. Probably the quietest one is that Sitka harness. But rightfully so. Barklow worked a lot with me in South Cox on that. Because it's just too loud, which is why I don't use range finding binoculars, because I'll pull the rangefinder out and put it in my pocket to drop noise down, especially on non-windy days. Drawing your bow, a little noise drawing your bow at 50 yards does not matter. A little noise drawing your bow at 15 yards is a huge deal. And so, shit talking aside with training wheels and bows and everything else, I mean, truthfully, whether you harvest or kill the animal or not, and you get inside of 20 yards of that thing's home, that is something to be proud of, because it is very difficult to get inside of that range and then, make the shot. And it's not that the shot distance is difficult. It's making the shot while the animal is still unaware that you're there. And noise is a huge part of that. Guys draw their bow and I hear it click at 3/4 draw. Their limb pocket pops, and I'm like, oh, you haven't hiked in 11 miles and blown a deer out from that yet, have you? Because believe me, you are going to, and I guarantee it won't happen again. So then I put wax on my limb pockets, whether it be a standard, bolt on like a Widow or a stable lock like a Bob Lee or an ILF. I put wax on everything that could pop, because that silences that. It takes that away. Arrow rest. I shoot a springy, sometimes, and I put a shrink tube on that. I found if I shoot an arrow that has blood on it, it makes significantly more noise than a standard arrow with nothing on it. Or if blood or something gets on my springy rest or my shelf, there's a grind to that. And I'm sure people are listening like, that can't make that big of a difference. But you get inside of 20 yards, those type of things are huge. Guys' insoles squeak in their boots, your pack squeaks, whatever. All of those things, if you do, the best thing that you can do to me is go outside on a non-windy day, away from the city, and literally stalk on nothing but listen to all the noise you're making, and take that into consideration and start really troubleshooting your system, meaning your clothing, your boots, your bino harness, your bow, pulling your rangefinder out, pulling your binos out. And most people, it's all theoretical that haven't hunted yet or have hunted and haven't been in that position. But Blake, you've hunted in the high country a few times. Rob, last year you were you first started kind of screwing around with mule deer on your elk hunt. Wearing that cone of shame 2 miles back to your camp because you blew a stock because you were stupid will teach you a lot. And it's those lessons learned from screwing up that you learn the most from, I feel. And unfortunately, I've made a lot of those mistakes and had a lot of walk back to camp with the cone of shame on my head of thinking, why didn't I fix that ahead of time? And again, those things stick out, and you fix them, and you become a better hunter, better stalker.
You're talking about noise, bow noise and stuff. It wasn't a couple of years ago. I was getting ready for hunt season, and I realized how much noise my leather tab was making. And again, it's not like I get like super close stalking and stuff, but once you like decide to become aware of stuff, it's surprising how noisy stuff is that you just wouldn't even think of. Go ahead, Blake.
No, I was just going to say, and this is especially important to guys like me or somebody that's, notched their 1 week of vacation out for the year or something like that. I mean, you don't want to go on a stalk and screw it up over something goofy that could have been easily preventable at the house. Just, stalking around in the yard or something like that. It's, if I can, like Aaron said, if I can, I'll take my bino harness off. If I don't think I'm going to need it. I usually drop down to, and again, I'm still learning a lot of this stuff, but I usually drop down to like some merino base layers, if I can get away with it. And I mean, from the pants you wear to, like Aaron said, putting, wax on your limb pockets. That's a good tip. It's stuff that's easily preventable that, can get overlooked easily as well.
Speaking of, go ahead, bud. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, no, just, while we're talking about all of this, when you, we the wax and the, all these different things, and let's say you get close enough. There's other things that come into play when you're out of your wheelhouse. And Rob, I'm going to bring up that the gray fox. And I never saw another one the entire time I was down there.
Thank you.
There's other things that come into play when you're out of your wheelhouse. In some cases, let's say it's clothing, getting shredded because you're in cactus and everything else, or you go to North Idaho and now you got to worry about rain. Well, in the case with you, Rob, I don't think you'd ever shot in wind quite that heavy because you're in timber a lot. Not saying you've never hunted in wind, but the wind down there is a whole different level because there's nothing blocking it. Your arrow literally about hit that gray wool, or excuse me, what was that thing called?
Desert fox.
Desert fox, a gray fox. It about hit that gray fox sideways from the crosswind.
Would have been epic.
Now that's not something I think that you can probably prepare for to a certain degree, but the wind, that might be a shot you may not take. Now, on a gray fox, I'm going to tell you to shoot no matter what if you're inside of 18 yards. But those are all things that if you're used to you hear guys talk about clothing like, oh, I've hunted in King of the Mountain, which is great. I don't have any issue with that. My whole life, 50 gear stupid. You probably haven't mountain hunted, and in maybe that type of terrain where higher performance clothing may make a difference. Having, 3 5-inch feathers or 3 5-inch trap vanes in comparison to 3 3-inch trap vanes because of wind. All of those things, when you get taken out of your wheelhouse, are learning experiences that you may or may not change. but it's certainly things that pop in your mind that you may not. Waterproofing is something when I hunt in your neck of the woods, Rob, and it's godforsaken man up in the north. It rains constantly every day. It sucks. Not every day, but almost every day. Everything's wet. Triple canopy forest. Giant underbrush, stinging nettle, devil's club. Okay, well, in Texas, you've got cactus and high wind. All of that stuff you should ask before you go. If you can, meaning find out what new situations you may be putting yourself in. And Rob, I'll let you touch on that. I mean, did you expect your arrow to turn broadside at 18 yards going out at that great block?
Well, we talked about it after it was over, like everybody, you guys, all you like open country mule deer hunters, you always talk about wind, and diameter of the arrow and fletching and all that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll buy that. Makes sense. And so I go out here in my place and we get pretty open. We get some big winds and, and I shoot, I feel like, yeah, that's not that big a deal. I never, we're in a wide open canyon and that wind is screaming, kind of from left to right there, or from right to left. I never seen anything like it. So I swear that I swear I've shot in high wind before, but I never seen anything like that. I mean, it wasn't a far shot, 18 yards, and that thing about got slapped.
Well, and again, you may not be able to prep for that, but you might be aware of it if you asked me how the wind is, I would have said, oh yeah, the wind's pretty strong all the time. And, it's not like you'd say, oh, we're probably going to get a shot at a gray fox at 18 yards, so aim right. But I mean, those are all things you from experience and in different situations that you learn. And, unfortunately, like for me, when I went from a compound to a stick, oh, good Lord, every time I took a step out of the truck, I was like, oh my God, this is an epic failure. Trying to learn, as time went on, but even arrow setups, what works best, and I do get a kick out of at times, and I'm not going to turn it into a shit talking bash fest, but you'll see people giving advice online that if, let's say, one of the things I laughed at was trad bench. I've hunted with feathers for 20 years, never had a problem. Well, yeah, I believe them. They're not lying, but the fine print is I've been hunting out of a tree stand, a quarter mile from my house for 20 years or whatever. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's awesome hunting and you're out there, but that's a little bit different than a 10-day backpack hunt for mountain goat. There's so many different variables in every different area you go that are they're obviously going to be new to you as you dive in each time. I mean, I would say, Rob, you live in one of the rougher areas to hunt in North America that I've seen, because in fact, Dwight Shue explained it once. He said hunting elk in North Idaho would be like climbing up a 50-story building with an elk screaming on top, and someone dumping water on your head every flight, and every second flight, someone slapping you in the face with tree branches. That is the best way I've ever heard North Idaho explained. That is exactly what I witnessed when I was there. But if a guy is basing that off of his full-blown knowledge and then goes to Colorado, none of that comes into play. But Blake, as you mentioned earlier, what would you say your worst adversary was when you got here hunting high country mule deer?
Elevation.
Your biggest obstacle. Yes. Elevation kicks you in the nutsack and does not stop. So you may have a different packing list for North Idaho that's a little bit heavier to keep everything waterproof. Where you head to Colorado, your packing list is going to be extremely Spartan. Which just has nothing to do with stocking. It's just it has to do every situation you're put in is going to have different obstacles. Elevation, it doesn't matter how tough you are, you're not fighting your way through elevation. In the case of Texas, where we were at in the Davis Mountains, you cannot hardly predict what to do in a high wind, meaning, Rob, you were blocked from the wind from my memory. You didn't have that much wind hitting you.
No.
But I tell you what, when that arrow left, Go ahead.
I was on the lee side of you. You were turned sideways.
Yeah, I'm a great wind blocker.
Yeah.
But again, like, if somebody would have looked back and said, "Where do I aim?" I would have been like, "I don't know, somewhere towards the
tail."
I mean, I don't know where to aim off the head.
Would have been better maybe if I skipped it in front.
No kidding.
Go ahead, Blake.
No, I was just going to say, I think you make some good points. Well, like with the trad vein thing, the reason why you were excited about trad veins was totally different than the reason I was excited about trad veins. And this goes back to you saying that take everybody's advice with a grain of salt because it's situational. I was excited about those damn things because they're so much quieter than feathers. It had nothing to do with the waterproofness or the weather or anything. It's just, the deer down here will make you look pretty silly at times. And arrow noise is a huge thing to me. And, the trad veins were so much quieter that it was a no brainer whenever they came out. Now I since switched for different reasons, but, just goes back to everything is situational.
Now, are you shooting feathers now or trad veins or both?
I went back to feathers, and I'm shooting as little feather as I can possibly get away with, just to try and cut down on the noise as much as possible. And the only reason that I went back to feathers is I used the feather from the time I started shooting a stick bow. I've used a shield cut feather on the tip of my nose as an anchor point. And I got so used to that and so comfortable with it. It was really consistent. My left and rights have always been money shooting that way. And with trad veins, I lose that. They're so soft, you can't feel them on your face hardly. And I just, and I've went through some pretty big peaks and valleys recently in my shooting. And I went back to feathers just so I could get that anchor point back and get some of that left and right consistency back. And I'm still not done with trad veins, but it's just kind of a work in progress, trying to work through that handicap of, I just really like having that feather on the tip of my nose. It's pretty bulletproof as far as an anchor point goes, or as a third anchor point, I guess I should say.
Well, no, you bring up a good point, and I was lucky that I started with a standard cut. I guess that would be a shield cut. Shield cut.
Parabolic,
whatever. Standard cut feather touching my nose. That the trad vein was the same cut, and so for the same reason, if the trad vein, it would be if the trad vein was a shield cut, that might screw me up in comparison to I'm calling it a standard cut for him until it's cold.
Parabolic.
Again, what's that? Yeah, parabolic. Thank you. A standard parabolic cut. And again, as simple as all of these things sound, if you take a guy that has shot shield cut forever and orders trad vein, that is something he needs to think about. Just like everything else we're talking about, noise and wind, all of this comes into play with being successful. It's hard enough to get close to begin with. Shit, it makes it even harder when you actually have to hit the animal. So, whether it be stalking, shooting, all of these things are, extremely important. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because guys, if they're thinking about switching and they're shooting shield cut and they use a nose touch type of a thing for, kind of a head positioning deal, that's a big, especially when you start to poke out there at 30, 35, 40 yards. At 20, I don't think it matters as much, but you start to get farther distances, that makes a huge difference. It's like your level being off on a compound. It's a huge deal.
No, it was for me. And I would have days where I shot the trad veins well, and I didn't have left and right issues, but, a lot of like barebow guys use string blare as almost like a peep sight or like a rear sight. Basically, they line up their string on their riser in a certain spot to line up their left and rights. And I anchor out kind of on the side of my face. And I anchor really high up on my cheekbone. So I can't get that string in close enough to my riser for it to be a good reference. So that shield cut feather was kind of putting a Band-Aid on things for a a long time. And when I went to trad vanes, I kind of realized how inconsistent my anchor actually was. And like I said, I'm not done with them because I think they're awesome. But the feather, as soon as I stick a feather on my arrow and start using that anchor point again, it's bulletproof. And I mean, you could, on a good day, put a telephone pole at 100 yards and I run them right down the center of that thing. And it's just, it's been a little bit of a learning curve going to, I mean, anytime you change anything, that's why I don't understand how some of these guys can change bows and change arrows and they change, bows and setups like it's their underwear. And, I can't for the life of me figure out how people stay consistent that way. Now, if you're shooting similar setups and similar bows and similar arrow weights, that's one thing, but some people go from shooting a 64-inch with a fixed crawl to split finger to this or that. And, I don't know how people can stay consistent doing that, because it screws me up every time I change anything.
I mean, that's one of, not making a cop out. That's one of the reasons I worry about trying to shoot. I'm not very good at losing at anything. And so if I shot tournaments and got kind of obsessed with tournaments, let's say, I would have to change my system to be more competitive. And that scares the living crap out of me. I don't mind shooting a bunch of the 62-inch bows because I set them all up basically the same. Doesn't bother me. I have the same point on, all that stuff doesn't really matter. But when you start talking, go from a 62 to a 64, 66-inch bow, going from 58 to 60 pounds to 45, going from gap shooting to a fixed crawl. What I would worry about is that would be the 1 year I have a 370 bull screaming in front of me and I do something stupid because my muscle memory and memory in general of my hunting setup would get convoluted with my tournament setup. And that's a big deal. And, recently there's been a lot of, not to shift gears too much, a lot of different talk on, different complexities and maybe over complicating traditional archery and, different setups and what works for different people. And I don't know if you guys want to dive into that and talk about that a little bit, but, we're kind of on that subject. And I don't know what you guys, I think sometimes people overcomplicate traditional archery for no reason whatsoever. You guys agree with that? Disagree? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that lately.
I was just gonna, I'm new to this. I want to. People take this with a grain of salt. So, I think that some of the information that's out there, and I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I think some of the information that's out there is going to cause more problems for you off the bat than it's going to fix. There's, I'm not saying that there's some things out there that won't help people, because I can think of a lot of cases where it has helped people. But if you're fixing target panic issues before you ever even know if you have target panic issues, you're causing more problems than you're solving. And that's just my opinion. Don't go screwing guitar picks into your bow and doing all kinds of goofy stuff right out of the gate before you know whether or not that's something that you need, because it's just adding a level of complexity that you may not have to screw with. But that's, like I said, that's my 2 cents. I'm new to this, so take it for what it's worth. I like to keep things as simple as humanly possible because I like to hunt, and the more I complicate stuff, and that's not to say you shouldn't have a shot process that you go through or things that you think about or whatever, but I want that process to be as streamlined as I can mentally have it and still execute a good shot. So I'm not going to add a bunch of stuff into that to complicate it.
Blake, how many times do we get messages from people saying, hey, I just got my first recurve. They're all excited. I just got my first recurve. What kind of arrows, what system should I run? And they're worried about, whether they need Valkyrie or Iron Will. And we're like, dude, you just got a bow, just get some arrows that are spined and start shooting and learn how to shoot. I mean, that's what's always bothered me from day one. Like when the podcast started getting big, not this podcast, but podcasts started getting big, because as you can tell, as anybody can tell, I'm kind of an old school guy and I'm set in my ways. So I'm like the counterbalance.
No.
Yeah. I'm like the counterbalance, like just chill, man. You know, Aaron, I was telling you the other day, I was in a restaurant and listening to some guy just spouting off about all the equipment and stuff. It's like, it's not about the equipment. Just get out and learn how to shoot.
No, I mean, go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we do get messages like that all the time. And we got that exact message a couple of days ago, a guy asking, about Valkyrie versus Iron Will, the new micro system. And, I messaged the guy back and I was like, man, I'm as big of an Iron Will fan as there is, but let's, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse, man. Let's just go buy whatever you can get your hands on that's cheap. And, that you'll know when it's time to start diving into stuff like that, because you'll understand it at that point. You'll understand why it's better. You'll understand what you want. Don't go spend that kind of money on stuff right out of the gate. Don't overcomplicate it. Get a bow, get some arrows, screw some fill tips into it, and just start shooting. And, if you fall in love with it, like, I did, or a lot of people do, all that stuff's going to come with time as you familiarize yourself with the sport in general. It's just, I just wish that some of the crap you see on the internet, I wish there was an asterisk underneath all of it. Like, or break glass when needed or something like that. Like, don't, that's not the first place you should go. But that's just my opinion.
Well, go ahead, Rob. I'm sure you probably got something to chime in.
No, I was just, the last thing I was going to say was that between, the messages that I just described and, that encounter in the restaurant, which was pretty crazy. I kind of stepped back for a minute and thought, are we creating this? I would feel really bad if I was making people think like they had to go top shelf from day one, man, because I am all about starting with the basics, get coaching, learn how to shoot, and then build from there. Don't start out with a $1,200 bow, build a foundation. But go ahead, Aaron, you got good insight on this.
No, I mean, the only thing I would say is if you're an alpha male with an unlimited budget, don't really listen to me or Rob or Blake right now, because if you want to piss away money and it makes you feel better, by all means, spend the money. But most people are not in that situation. Because like with me, when I you get these questions, right? And guys are like, hey, should I add 25 grains to my point weight to go from 19.2 to 20.3 FOC? I'm like, brother, I don't even know what mine is, and I can give two shits. I don't care what my FOC is. So if you want to add 25 grains in and it makes you feel better, go ahead. But the fact that you shoot, you can't hit a stop sign 3 times at 20 yards, I wouldn't worry about the 25 grains. I would worry about your form, right? Like, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, like, oh, you dummy, you have bad form. I'm saying that like, hey, you want your form, your hunting ability, and your gear to all be kind of building up on the same level, the same line at the same time. So as the water rises, you want all of those things to rise together. So if you're, maybe your field craft and experience and animal behavior is super high, but you've been on a really tight budget, then, upgrade maybe some of your gear that might be beneficial. And, let's say you're a gear junkie and your gear is at a level 10 and your hunting skill is a level 2. Now you may want to raise your hunting skill up. So if your gear's a 10, your hunting and fieldcraft level is a 7, but your shooting's a 2, well, then don't worry about the other one. Start bringing that shooting level from a 2 to a 5 to a 7 to a 10. And a lot of guys, I think it's because no different than anything else in the world, you can buy gear. You can buy the coolest stuff. You cannot buy field craft. You cannot buy shooting ability. That comes hard-earned. And sometimes people hit the easy button and they try to buy their way into it. Which there's nothing wrong with spending money. I'm not saying don't buy cool stuff. It's just make sure as you're buying that cool stuff that you're also putting that blood, sweat, and tears and hard work into the shooting ability and the hunting skill. Hopefully that made some sense. And so if you have a Swarovski 115 and a BTX that's 10 power or 12 power NL pures and the most badass rangefinder known to man and the highest end arrows, but you can't make it to the top of the hill to make the shot, you really need to take a big step back and say, okay, I've spent way too much time and effort on gear and listen to way too many podcasts and way too many YouTube videos. I need to go get on the Peloton bike or throw a pack on and go do some cardio, because that gear can be bought. The physical fitness, shooting ability, and animal behavior field craft has to be earned, and you want to do all of those things at the same time, or try to.
No, and I think we all are guilty of getting geeked out on gear at a time or two. And I mean, that's the cool thing to talk about, right? That's the cool thing to talk about is what are you using? But I mean, I just think it's important for people to hear that, and I mean, it's hard for us when we're answering messages sometimes because we don't know what a person's made of, quote unquote. We don't know. I have people ask me, all the time, pointers on whether it's compound or traditional, pointers on stuff. And I'm like, well, like, how deep are you wanting to get into this? Like, I mean, how serious are you? And so it's hard to know from person to person what the right thing to say might be. So I think this is good discussion, because you need to take a deep look at yourself and figure out who you are and how dedicated you're going to be to it. And like Aaron said, if you're, well, like me, I kind of dove in head first, but I get obsessive with things, right? I get, when I start something, I start it with the intention of being the best at it. And I just know that about myself. So whenever I get into a hobby, I dive in, head first. Some people aren't that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just know where you are and where you're headed, I guess, is the simplest way to put it.
That's good stuff.
Anything to add to that, Rob?
No, it's just good stuff. Like I said, like, I really would feel bad if we create people who are more interested in the gear than actually the I don't want to say the art, but I hate to see people. I hate to see people get hung up because they think they got to spend $180, $200 on a dozen arrows their first time.
Well, I think eventually they should, or they will.
Oh yeah.
I just think that it has to. Well, let's go around the round table. Rob, if I was going to pick a couple things about you that you would high points and low points. Meaning like things you need to work on and things that you're really good at. You're extremely patient. You are very, very able to control your intensity to not take a shot that could risk wounding the animal. You're very good at that. You're very self-controlled with that. Your downsides, I'd say you're a bit of a naysayer, and it takes about a 2 bullets, 3 giant men, 2 babies, and an elephant to convince you to use something you're not overly open-minded, which is a pro and a con. Hunting wise, I didn't see really anything down with anything. You didn't do anything stupid the entire time we hunted. You have very good sense of animal behavior. You obviously been around the block and had a couple drinks and seen a couple things. No issues with any of that. I think you are more of the guy that you will not buy into something unless you have seen it firsthand and experienced it yourself, which is a pro and a con. And I would say, reversing that on me, I would say probably I'm a lot more, well, give me your 2 cents. I'm too open-minded and I try everything. But, Rob, what would you say for Blake and I? What are some pros and cons?
Talk about putting a guy on a spot. I don't know. I haven't hunted with Blake. I can't, I don't know that, that would be fair to give Blake any, any of my 2 cents, but, hunting with you and I, obviously it works for you. How the hell am I supposed to tell you, what I think you're doing wrong? But
you brought up very good points though. I am way too aggressive for
no, I was leading into that. I was going to say it works for you, but, as far as for how I approach things, you're just 110% where I think patience, would oftentimes, benefit you, but
you're not wrong though. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not putting you on the spot. If someone's trying to emulate me, that is more conducive to a patient mentality, they should not emulate me.
Yeah.
And if someone's trying to emulate you, and they're more of a 110 balls to the wall, full rip potato chip, they shouldn't emulate you. And as far as if a guy is financially stable and a gear junkie, I'm like, hell yeah, test it out, man. As long as you are becoming a what do you want to call it? You are becoming a professor of a sport. I don't know what you want to say. You are
scholar of the sport. Yeah.
A scholar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're learning to tune. You're learning to shoot. You're learning all of these things. As long as you're doing that and it's equal to the gear at the same time, I'm all for it. Where I get a little Twitter faded is a guy messages me and he's far more worried about 23% FOC and some kind of crazy clicker on his bow or a throat clicker or something, that truly baffles me. And he's convoluting really the simplicity of traditional archery. And as I say that, I get super complex with it. But in the end, there's a few things that you should remember. When in doubt, keep pulling, keep pinching, don't collapse, right? Do the same thing every time, all the time. And then make sure your arrow flies straight out of the bow. That's pretty simple, but that's the key to victory. I mean, after that, you're getting a little too complex sometimes, and not to say complex is bad, but I mean, when guys call me that literally picked up a stick bow or a compound 6 months ago and are sending 7 different graphs of different arrow setups to ask me which one's the most lethal, I'm like, shit, bro, all of them. Pick one. Like, you spent more time on that than I did on anything in my entire high school career combined on an arrow chart to figure out what you're most, which is great that they're putting their time in, but it's like, man, a 575 grain arrow with a really sharp broadhead, it's going to kill damn near anything in North America. If you're pushing the envelope to try to go from 19.5 to 23% FOC, but you haven't spent the time shooting that had a stop sign at 20 yards. Those are the things that I feel we're talking about that people really need to take a look at. Like, become a master of the sport. Learn the sport. Learn everything about it. Learn the tune, and don't get so wrapped up on gear too far ahead of time, because you're really cutting yourself short on how accurate you potentially could be. Because I'm a huge fan of iron will. But I don't give a shit how expensive that broadhead is. It is not going to make you hit the animal if you suck. It doesn't matter. It's not a heat seeker. You got to be able to hit the animal. Once you're able to do that, that system may be more beneficial than a cheaper system. But a cheaper system will get the job done too. And those are things I think people really need to think about.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. We don't want to see people get frustrated from the get-go. And, you know, if you're if you're gear junkie, as long as you're having fun, have fun at it, but don't get wrapped up and frustrated because, you know, building the foundation is the important thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And again, recently this has popped up a little bit more for certain reasons. And there's a lot of big names, great coaches. You know, Tom Clum, a huge friend of mine. I look at him like a father, great coach. He was able to really simplify things for me and break them down at the level I was at with a compound to a stick bow. And the NTS system is not that difficult. I think people overcomplicate it, but the general thing Tom would probably teach you is get a good platform for shooting, keep good tension, you know, really work on your release, don't pluck, you know, keep it towards your face. You know, after that, if you're, you know, going too crazy on anything, you're probably making it worse before you make it, you know, better. And I think Tom would agree with that. You know, Blake, you're one of the better shooters I've shot against. You and I would say extremely similar in our form and how we execute a shot. I don't know if Blake, you agree or disagree with that. I would say we're pretty close.
I think he's better than you.
I don't, because he'll beat me by 15 more points next time we shoot against each other.
Well, you are the closest guy to ever come to beat you. In the last 2 or 3 years.
There's always
and
this
you
year.
And I have, what's that?
There's always this year.
I'm gonna put a muzzle on you because I'm telling you, I don't need to shoot in the. I struggle with whether or not I need to shoot in the same group as Aaron because I know if I shoot with Aaron, I'll shoot better, but he'll shoot better too. No, but I mean, going back, I mean, our aiming method and it's extremely similar, and I mean, some of that is because I've picked it up directly from you, but you know, we also went and saw the same coach as well. But I mean, it's, you know, I learned a lot of it through you and through listening to people who hunt the way that I want to hunt, or you know, I think there's a lot of Eastern whitetail tree stand guys who give advice to people who have no intentions of spending very much time in a tree stand. Get your advice from the applicable spot, I guess. But no, I mean, we shoot very similarly. There's no doubt as far as styles anyway.
Well, and I'm only, you know, bringing this up because in reality, in the grand scheme of things, Dwayne Martin, who I've never met, I respect from what I've seen, is an unbelievable shot. How would Dwayne do on a high country mule deer hunt? I have no idea, but the dude tears it up on a 3D course, and he's unbelievable. Listen to Dwayne Martin when it comes to, and Dwayne by no means is coaching people on high country mule deer or anything else. I'm just using Dwayne because he's one of the best shooters in the history of mankind with a recurve. Are you going to listen to Dwayne on high country mule deer or a stone sheep hunt? You might, and it might be great advice. I don't know, but when you talk to a guy that's telling you to use a specific clicker or a specific system or whatever that has never been on a high country mule deer hunt or a mountain goat hunt, or Cody Greenwood, and he was very upfront. You know, his system was extremely flawed for a spot and stock mule deer hunt with his aiming system, and I love Cody to death. He's a very good friend. Where he got that system from, I really don't care, but it was the worst shit he could come up with, and was a nightmare because he wasn't as quick as he could be. And so if you're listening to someone, you know, but which is why I try not to give advice on shooting tournaments, because there's guys that can kick my ass. You know, go listen to John Dimmer, or Dellinger, or Dwayne Martin. But if it comes to hunting elk or mule deer or whatever, a specific system may work better for that person. And if in all of this you're getting confused and convoluted, That is what I don't want. I want people to have this smooth, streamlined target for, avenue of success. And I believe Tom is very good at that. He'll sit you down and say, okay, these are the systems that I know work, but this is probably one of these two is going to be the best for hunting out west or whatever. And, a fixed crawl. I'm not a fan of that. I just don't need that, but a fixed crawl makes great sense. For whitetail hunting with fixed distances, I get that, and I would never argue with that. But a fixed crawl on a spot and stock hunt is not what you want to use or do. And Rob, you've never shot anything but split finger for the most part, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
No, that's right. Yeah, split finger.
Would you say that if someone new is coming up, a question for both of you guys, that hop online and a ton of info out there, what would you guys say, would be the best for Western hunting, and what would be the best for tree stand or Eastern hunting? What would you guys want to use for naming method?
Western hunting, for whitetails, a fixed crawl is a pretty awesome little aiming method. If you're married to 20 or 25 and in, you're not going to shoot further than that. A fixed crawl it can be a little bit of a tuning nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. There's pros and cons to all of it. For me, because I hunt whitetails and I hunt out west, a 35-yard point on is a reasonable point on distance for me. 35 to 38, somewhere in there. My point's far enough up in my vision that I can still reference it somewhat, but it's quick, and that's the main thing. It's quick. I don't have to think about it. It's and the reason, I messed with a fixed crawl some last year. We talked about this with Cody, and I ditched it pretty quick because, like we were talking about earlier, I need one system that works as well as possible for everything. So I'm a gap instinctive guy. Inside 20-25, I'm not a hard gap shooter, but I know what my sight picture looks like. It's quick, it's intuitive. And then I can still, if I have a deer come in at 33, 34 yards, I still feel confident enough to plunk it. And if I had a 20-yard fixed crawl, that kind of shoots me in the foot as far as anything past 30. And I don't want to be looking down at my string, trying to find where I need to, you're adding in complications that aren't needed for certain situations. And, I'm curious what you think, Rob.
Well, I don't, having never knowing next to nothing about fixed crawl, I can't imagine why anybody would want to shoot anything other than, at this point, if you're learning just now, a gap shooting. There's so much information out there, and it's such a good system. To me, I would steer anybody towards learning how to gap shoot. Not to say that, what I shoot, I like it and I'm not willing to change. But my buddy Jake that just picked up a recurve last year, he messaged me the other day and said, "Hey dude, I just tried this 3-under gap shoot and I love it, man. It's unbelievable." So more power to you. I will say that, like, between you two, I don't think you have 10 years combined in shooting stick bows. Is that right?
No, I've got about 3.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like I can say with assurance, like, in my 25, 30 years of shooting a stick bow, I have never seen more accuracy, like going to shoots and going and shooting leagues. The level of accuracy for instinctive or for traditional archery has climbed dramatically. And it isn't because more people are getting in and shooting instinctive. It just isn't.
Well, I want to make sure people don't think I'm poo-pooing on fixed crawl. Like, if that's what you do and that's what works for you, like, if you go to, I'm example A, you go to a big tournament where the Dwayne Martins of the world are going to be there. And, I took my hunting bow because I don't like switching things up because I'm a hunter first and I like to shoot 3Ds for fun. if you go to a 3D tournament shooting gap stinctive the way that I do, and you're not just perfect at judging yardage or whatever, a guy who's string walking is going to beat the brakes off of you. It's with guys who are good at that. That tailors to that game. String walking or fixed crawl or whatever, it tailors to that game, and they tailor their gear to it. You need to tailor your equipment and your aiming method to what you're doing. Your whitetail guy out east, 20 and under, fixed crawl may be perfect for you. But for me specifically, I'm not a huge fan of it, because I don't want to shoot a fixed crawl for whitetail and then swap and go back to gap stinctive for when I go out west. I just want to do the same thing all the time. When I go and shoot 3D tournaments, I don't have a 3D bow. I want to shoot my hunting bow, because I want my 3D game to supplement my hunting. And so that's just, you got to figure out what you want to do. If you want to be competitive in bare bow or whatever, go and listen to those guys and how they set up their equipment and their shot processes and all of that. But that doesn't mean that all of that transfers to the woods. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. Just just figure out what you want to tailor your system to and run with it. What do you think, Aaron?
That was kind of a long answer, Aaron. Sorry.
No, I agree with everything that Blake said. One of the things, Rob, you said you're not willing to change. I would say you're not willing to change because you are not changing your location of where you live. I would almost guarantee if you moved to whatever, Colorado, and you and I started mule deer hunting together in the high country, I can't say guarantee, but pretty close. I think you would change your system, because there's only going to be so many mule deer bedded at 35 to 40 yards that you may not shoot before you're like, yeah, maybe we'll work on this 3 under gap shooting thing, because that was a long stock for me to watch that thing walk away. You might change that.
Yeah, when I say I'm not willing to change, honestly, I'm chicken. I'm chicken to mess with my shooting, and that's a personality flaw. There's not a lot of things I'm chicken at, but changing my.
These are things people need to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've never had anything force your hand into changing your shooting, though. It's always worked for you. It's worked for you in the situations you've been in, and I mean it.
I would love to be able. I'd love to be dropping bombs at 50 yards. Not that I would be shooting a game at 50 yards. I'm not saying that, but to walk up on a 3D buffalo and be, know exactly where I need to hold my point. That'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I just,
again, I mean, I think that, the newer shooter, including myself and Blake into this, I learned from Tom Clum, and as I was learning, he opened different doors for me. He never pushed anything on me, and he knew I had a high enough level with the compound that I'd probably figure out what my own. I learned gap on my own. When I say that, Tom mentioned it, but as I was shooting, I was like, shit, I can just aim down this arrow. This is way easier than, gripping and ripping. I'm going to aim down the arrow. He brought it to my attention, and I try to perfect it from there. That when people walk into this, you have this huge umbrella of information. And you've got, goofballs that shoot 100-pound longbows, which, by the way, no one should ever do that. I think that is just a rule that we can all agree on. Don't shoot 100-pound longbow unless you just started. You're shooting African wild buffalo or hippos and shit, right? Like, start with a decent, 45, 40, 45, 50, 55 pounds, but shoot a draw what you can handle. But if you're going to hunt out west, I think that instinctual or gap shooting is probably the way to go. And if you're going to go back east, that a fixed crawl might be the way to go. And then once you figure out, if you're starting that, okay, I want to shoot gap, perfect gap pick one person to listen to that you trust, follow that and perfect that method and don't change. Blake and I are really similar. I have a 38 to 40 yard point on. Blake, I think there's a 35 to 37, if I'm not mistaken. It's basically the same thing. From those gaps that I have learned, okay, at 40, I aim right at it. At 35, the top of my arrow is in the armpit, so on and so forth. And I am afraid. I'm no different than you, Rob. I'm scared shitless to change. If I went to to change, it's like, okay, I have to reinvent the wheel in my brain to memorize something new. Where now I've tried to shoot for tournament reasons a closer point on. It's not good. I'm so used to that arrow and that cast or that arc of the arrow flying at a 40-yard point on or 38 to 40. It's goofy. So I try to tell guys, look, figure your system out and perfect that system and make sure that system is commensurate with the game and the area that you're hunting. And when you convolute that, and so you figure that part out, and let's say you want to shoot maybe a clicker or a nose touch or something like that, perfect that and don't convolute it. Don't when you start, I get guys that come at me with 45 different systems, and I'm like, bro, I can't tell you what to do. Like it's your, I don't know how your brain works, but I can tell you what's worked for me. And there's so much information out there, which is what we're talking about. It can make guys super confused. And I'm not talking gear. I'm talking about shooting methods and things like that. And I think we can all agree on that if you're going to shoot an NTS or a power archery type system, it's really similar, which is more of an Olympic style shooting. It's a very effective system. If you're going to shoot grip, split finger and more of a grip and rip, instinctual type shooting, you still need to keep tension on the string. You still need to increase tension. You need to have a good release. That's pretty simple and pretty basic. It's after that where I think people get super confused.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you've got to walk your own path. Like you said, it's when you said it, you learned gap shooting on your own, a light bulb kind of went off. Like from the second I picked up a stick bow and started shooting one, it was just intuitive to me to, okay, I just shot at that target. Where was the tip of my arrow at when where did the arrow hit in relation to the tip of my arrow? And it was just intuitive to, well, I've got something to aim with right here. Why wouldn't I use it? And so if I guess I knew from the get-go that tailored to my mental whatever makeup. And for some people it doesn't. And that, just because I'm saying that gap stinctive or whatever is great, that doesn't mean that it, some people may shoot better instinctive because it gets their brain out of the way for whatever reason. And walk your own path. Don't let somebody else tell you which direction you need to go. You're going to figure all this stuff out on your own. Like if target panic's an issue for you, you're going to figure that out and then start going down these rabbit holes of how you need to go about battling with that. And, just don't, too many people, I feel like, overcomplicate this stuff. And there's no need until you have to.
Yeah, I don't know about Aaron. I don't know if Aaron knows, but I think Blake has an idea. I think legitimately 25 to 25% to as close as a third of the listeners of this podcast shoot compounds. They don't even shoot a stick bow. I think that's pretty cool.
No, it is. Yeah, I mean, we half the people who message us, it seems like, are compound guys sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, when you one of the things, like you guys bringing that up, I think what it is they're looking at dabbling. They're looking at. I posted a photo today on social, and it was, I don't know, something I hardly ever make comments on there, but or post any kind of thesis below my picture, but I put sometimes the grip and grin has no arrows in the quiver, and other times everything goes right. And I had a bunch of people message me that said, "Hey, I just got my first bow, or I'm looking at buying a stick bow. What should I get? The normal questions." And I try to start them off on the what I feel is the right foot of, hey man, go get like if you're shooting 70 pounds with a compound, go get a Samick Sage, something like that, $180 bow, and get some relatively cheap arrows and start flinging. If you get addicted, keep that bow as a trainer, because it's lower poundage. And, now if 40 to 45 was easy and you're not collapsing and you're able to hit max extension, look at maybe getting a 50 to 55 pound bow for hunting. Plenty of weight to kill just about anything in North America. And then just really work on form. Try to find a coach, go, kind of research that. But my main thing is, guys, don't overcomplicate this. Try to shoot, if you shoot 55 pounds, try to shoot a 550 grain to 600 grain arrow. If you're comfortable with split finger, perfect that. If you're dabbling with 3 under, perfect that. And don't, I saw a post the other day, I can't remember who made it, and it kind of stole it from me, but a smart man once said, find an arrow that tunes, buy 5 dozen of those arrows and shut off social media. There is not a truer statement that's been made, because if you're, I've been ordering a bunch of arrows because I've switched from Rampages to X Impact. At the amount of arrows I just ordered, people freak out, but I ordered 8 dozen built exactly the same, because I'm not going to switch, because the cast of that arrow, the speed of that arrow, everything, I want to perfect that system, that arrow with my shooting style, that broadhead, that everything, and get as comfortable, as confident with that system as I possibly can. I'll dabble a little bit with other stuff screwing around, but I mean, overall, I want that perfected. I want to be an extension of my body. If you are listening to 14 different people, it's going to be hard to make one thing an extension of your body, because it's not fluid enough. You're not using that specific system, that arrow, that bow, or whatever, enough to where it's become second nature. And that's where I think guys really get into trouble.
It's good stuff. Yeah, no, it has been. I think this has all been good stuff. And I know we beat a couple horses to death, but I mean, this whole traditional archery thing is very personal from person to person. So if you get anything out of all this, just walk your own path, so to speak. Do it for the reasons you want to do it the way you want to do it. Don't listen to me or Rob or Aaron or anybody else. Just do it for the reasons that you want to do it, and the way that tailors to you. You staying hydrated, Aaron?
Yeah, I am right now.
Are you?
Why do you ask?
Just concerned about you, man.
I've been good. I should say, I don't even think, if I wouldn't have told you guys that I'd had some tequila before this podcast, but I think I've been on my best behavior.
Yeah, I know it. I'm surprised. You're like, yeah.
Maybe it's because I drank some tequila, so I'm being very forward thinking in what I say, because I'm like, okay, something could slip, so really stay on your toes. Something stupid.
Well, I'm impressed. I thought I was going to have to this is going to be like editing, varsity level editing, but no, man. You made it easy.
Well, let's take the gloves off first. Let's take the gloves off for a second. You told Rob some things, some downsides to Rob. What are some things? I know you and I haven't hunted together much at all. And just
he's going to say that mustache and goatee. That's going to be the downside.
What are some things that you've seen being around me or shooting with me or whatever that maybe I could work on, and maybe somebody will get something out of this?
Man, I don't have a lot. I mean, honestly, as I've talked to you, for whatever reason, at a young age, you are physically stuck. Like, how did you get bad shoulders that young? Like, I know this doesn't have anything to do, but dude, you shoot good. You know, you're very methodical in your stalks. I mean, I talked with Wes. You're very forward thinking. You don't do anything rash or whatever. But you know, how the hell did you end up with bad shoulders? How old are you?
Have you ever seen his lifting videos, Aaron?
His what?
His lifting videos? Dude was a freaking beast. Or maybe he still is.
Do you think that's what it's from?
I'm washed up
like
now.
that would be the only thing.
What were you pressing?
At one time I overhead pressed, and this is strict, no knee bounce or anything. Strict overhead press standing was 250.
Damn.
And I think I weighed 191 at that point. Yeah, I did way too much powerlifting type stuff through my high school years and then into my early to mid 20s. And I was doing, don't do what I used to do, but I mean, I was doing, 5x5, this strict powerlifting workout. Like, I think at one point I was squatting. I was doing, I think 485 or something, 5 sets of 5 on squat, and then blew a hamstring out. And it's just, I've definitely shied away from all of that now, and I'm paying the price for it. And, my job makes an old man out of me too, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, and I don't know that, when you're picking guys apart, which is hard for, obviously Tom picks me apart, but Tom's also very good at that because he does it for a living. And I don't have any, issue with guys, critiquing or, whatever else. Because, on my end, if it makes sense, it's like, oh, thanks. And if it doesn't make sense, I just kind of, delete and block. I'm like, all right, well, it's your opinion, but I'm not going to change anything. And if it makes sense, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to look into that. And again, with you, it sounds like you probably need to focus a lot more on yoga, stretching, some deep needling, and tender loving care on your body. Because if you can't draw your bow back, how old are you now?
I'll be 30 in September.
Shit.
Yeah, that's pretty damn young. So I would say, that's not anything to do with hunting. Longevity of your career is when I say career, your outdoor hunting career, however you want to put it. It sounds like you're physically somewhat, battered, which I'm in no position to talk. I'm all jacked up too, but this kind of brings up the overbowed thing. There's a specific individual that I'm not going to bring up his name, but a guy giving you advice to shoot an 80 to 100 pound bow is the dumbest shit you could ever listen to by far. And I have no issue saying that to the guy to his face or anybody that asks me.
Yeah, but what if he's killed deer? What if he's killed deer?
Well, in this case, this guy hasn't killed anything but time, so it doesn't really matter. And even if he has, hey, I get it, but it's not, and this is, it's a lot of people know I've shot 80 to 100 pounds with a compound. I don't suggest for a lot of people to do that. I have been lucky. I've got no shoulder issues, but the bottom line is you could be very successful with 45 to 55 pounds with a recurve. Right broadhead and arrow setup, arrow flight, and accuracy, you're good. That overbowing yourself is a really, 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 really quick way to end your shooting career. And it's not needed. And an 80-pound compound is not needed, but drawing back an 80-pound compound is nothing compared to a 70-pound traditional bow. And the thing that I found is you are way more conducive to start collapsing, short drawing, all of those different types of things, not hitting max expansion, which is all bad on your body when you shoot these heavy weights. And I'm not bashing guys that have to shoot heavyweight when they're going overseas and hunting Cape buffalo. I get that. But if you're hunting mule deer, elk, whitetail, a 550 to 600 grain arrow, with anywhere from 50 to 60 pounds and even lower than that is more than enough. So it's like, yeah, I get the manly thing or whatever. Like I get that, but man, it's a short-sighted goal because you're just shortening your long-term career. And obviously, as I've gotten older or whatever, I had to work a lot more on maintenance. The last thing I want to see is a guy grab a 70-pound longbow and start short drawing it and really just following through on a recipe for disaster, because not only is it beating your body, it's also giving you horrible form issues. So take it for what it's worth, but I think there are a few things that are definite and other things that are variables. Overbowed is a definite bad thing.
Yeah.
Short drawing definitely bad. Shit like that can't be argued.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out. You're imprinting. Every shot is an imprint, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, Tom had me start with 40 pounds.
Yeah.
I felt like a girl.
You look a little on the puny side, though.
I know, right?
No, we need to do a podcast, and you hit the nail on the head. I need to definitely start thinking about 10, 15, 20 years from now and start, because I mean, this is something I want to do into my 50s if I can. And, a lot of that's.
Whoa, time out. Back the train up there, buddy. Like 50s is old.
Hiking up mountains. And Rob, you're in exceptional shape. And I want to be in that. What I'm saying is I want to be in that same boat. I don't want my knees to give up. I don't want my shoulders to give up, because the path that I've kind of went down to this point is leading more and more towards that. And I mean, a lot of it's being young and stupid and telling people to get out of the way. I'll get it. And doing crap like that. And it's, that's really
why I would like to do a video on shoulder mobility, like we've been talking about. I mean, it's helped me out in 18 months, man. My shoulder mobility is so much better, and that is where it's at for archery. But we did a video and it just didn't work. We're looking for models because I'm not one. So, send your resumes in.
Well, I don't say 50, on a serious note, I don't say 50 as in that's old. I say 50 as in my brain, the way that I feel right now at 30, if I don't get on top of the ball now, I will be in a bind at 50. And, it's definitely something to think about, and something I probably don't pay enough attention to because I think I'm young and bulletproof still. And it's pretty apparent that I'm not anymore. Hell, whenever I hurt my shoulder, all I did was pick up, a 4-inch hose up above my head. It wasn't heavy or anything. It was just something that, and 10 years ago, I might've recovered from it in a week or two, but I'm not getting any younger. It took me, 2.5 months to get over it.
Well, I mean, on that note, which obviously we probably talked for too long, I think the thing that you should take out of this short bit is you should focus as much on maintenance as you should on strength, maintenance and mobility as you should on strength at a young age, and get that ingrained into you, because I don't think I stretched a muscle unless I was made to in the military till I was probably 35. Bad move on my part. I got a wipe from the front and bowed up like crazy, and I've had to really work on flexibility and things like that as time has gone on, because I just don't have the flexibility. And now, like today, I lifted twice. I probably lifted for 20 minutes this morning and 35 this afternoon, and I probably stretched for every bit of that time and foam rolled and things, because age is catching up with me, and I got to focus on that.
Yep. That's true story.
This is, in fact, a true story.
It's gotten some miles. It's gotten some miles.
We need to make a T-shirt.
Yeah, I'd be a good cartoon character, and that's about it. We got a lot of comments on the what was it? The keep it stupid simple. That's what it was. Keep it stupid simple. Everybody's like, you got to make a T-shirt out of that.
That's a military deal. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, but my good buddy Blake here, he said it wrong, and I kind of pointed it out, and some people picked up on it. And
everybody let me know about it. Don't worry. Freaking geez.
By the way, while you talk about everybody let you know about it, a few things that I have found in my brief stance hunting down in Texas is do not call a javelina a pig. Even though it has a snout, it has the same hoofs as a pig. If you really want to laugh, because I know it's a javelina and I know it's actually a peccary, which is a rodent. I said we shot a couple pigs, and I'm not sure how many people in the state of Texas and Arizona let me know it wasn't a pig, but it was all of them. And I'm like, guys, I just kind of rounded up, right? I just called it a pig. And so one thing great about the internet is if you're not sure and you post something, you're going to know by the end of the day if it was wrong, because everyone's going to tell you it was wrong.
You know what? Just tell them, hey, I go horn hunting too, so just put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, exactly. All in good fun. I did get a kick out of it, though, because, well, I say we, that was an ongoing joke at camp, because I'd be like, pigs. And then Chad would go, Chad, you guys met Chad, very, Southern dry. Sir, that is a peccary, which is a rodent, technically. And he would go on this full-on dissertation of what the javelina actually was, because he was reading all the comments and messages I got about, dude, I can't believe you've hunted this long and you didn't know that was a javelina. And it's like, boys, I just called it a pig. Give me a break. Like, can't I just round up and say pig? It's got a snout. No. Close enough.
No.
Well, I've killed a dump trailer load of pigs, and the javelinas are eerily similar.
Well, there's people that just they have nothing better to do than look for the minutia in the world. I'm not.
People like you.
What?
You point out it every time. Every time I say something goofy, you pull the e-brake and.
Well, I have to.
What's that shit you just said? Yeah, I know. I do it to you too.
I know, and you're just stroking that thing right there when it's really just 4 whiskers. You're making it like it's Santa Claus.
I got to go get the cat and have him lick it off.
That's how this relationship works.
I promise, guys, we don't hate each other. We don't.
That was super funny. That freaking meme that Wasey dog put up, that was funnier than hell, man. I hate you and my dad hates you. That was awesome.
Aaron, did you listen to that podcast, the You Mad Bro podcast that Rob and I did on baiting and trail cameras? That couldn't possibly get heated, could it?
I should have. I didn't.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah, you need to go listen to it. Wasey posted a meme, the stepbrothers, when they're laying in the room next to each other, Wolf Barrel and whatever his name is, laying next to each other, and they say, I just wish you'd never been born. And it said Rob and Blake talking to each other after the podcast.
Oh, Lord, that's funny.
Hey, on a serious note, what do you got going on? You doing some outdoor skills seminar?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing a seminar at Corbin's Archery and then one at Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, and then I'm the keynote speaker in Wyoming for Wyoming Loafers Association. So yeah, I got all kinds of stuff popping up.
Cool. What's the
Corbin's?
Yeah, talk about that.
Corbin's Archery's in Seminole, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too far from me. Then I might just have to get a notepad and come out there.
Yeah, definitely. Come on out. We'll probably go shoot pigs. So
pigs or javelina?
Actually, pigs, I think, but I haven't shot them yet, so I hate to say.
You're not sure. I'm not sure.
I believe they're pigs. I haven't been out there yet.
So. Good stuff, man. Well, do we whoop up on this one?
I think so.
You bet.
Right on.
You bet.
You performed pretty well on Tequila, bro.
That's funny.
All right, man.
The jokes I could make there.
This is via Zoom.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Well, hey, man, it's good talking to you.
Cool. You guys take it easy. Have a good night.
All right, later.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.